Welcome to Private Stories, where people discover who they really are.
The suitcase didn't belong to me. It stood in the hallway like it had always been there, navy blue, scuffed at the edges, zipped with careful precision. Not rushed, not chaotic. It wasn't the kind of packing you do when you're angry. It was the kind you do when you've already made peace with leaving. I stood barefoot on the hardwood floor, holding a bowl of cereal that had gone soggy in my hands. Milk dripped over the rim and onto the floor, but I didn't move. I just stared at that suitcase like it was speaking a language I refused to understand. There was no note, no message, just silence and a faint scent in the air that didn't belong to me, something floral, something smoky, someone else. The bedroom door was wide open, too wide. Like it was inviting me to step inside and face whatever I didn't want to see, so I did. Her side of the room was clean, not empty, just finished, like a chapter that had been closed carefully instead of ripped out. Her jewelry hook was bare. The small silver necklace she wore almost every day was gone, but what stayed with me wasn't what she took. It was what she left behind. Her old gray sleep shirt, the one with the faded bleach stain near the hem, was folded neatly on the dresser. Folded. That detail hit harder than anything else. People don't fold things when they're breaking down. They don't fold things when they're furious. Folding takes intention. It takes control. You only fold something when you still care how things look, even while you're destroying them. I walked outside without thinking. Rain had started, light at first, then steady. I sat down on the front steps like an idiot, still holding the bowl, cereal soaking through my jeans. I didn't care who saw. I didn't care about anything. My eyes stayed locked on the driveway. Her car was gone, just an empty space where something used to belong. And in that moment, a strange thought crossed my mind. This is how everything ends, not with shouting, not with chaos, but with quiet decisions made long before you realize you've already been left behind. 3 days later, the email came. No subject, no sender name I recognized, just an attachment. You should see this. JPG. I don't even remember clicking it, but I remember what I saw. The image was grainy, taken through glass, slightly blurred, but clear enough. It was her, my wife, sitting on another man's lap, laughing, not nervous, not guilty, happy. That's what broke me, not the betrayal, not even the leaving, but the fact that she looked free doing it. Like everything we had ever been had never mattered at all. I didn't scream, I didn't call her, I didn't throw anything or try to fix it. I just disappeared. I emptied my bank account, every dollar, even the money I had secretly set aside for a trip she kept postponing. Something I had been saving for us, for a future that apparently never existed. Then I bought a one-way ticket, didn't care where it went, didn't care how far. I left my phone on the seat next to a stranger before the bus reached its final stop. It rang once while I stood up. I didn't turn back. That was the last time I heard my old life trying to reach me. For a while, I thought I had done the right thing. I told myself disappearing meant freedom, that if I erased everything, every memory, every place, every version of myself tied to her, I could finally breathe again. But I was wrong, because disappearing doesn't erase anything. It just makes the silence louder. And ghosts. Ghosts don't forget. Months passed. I ended up in a place no one I knew would ever think to look. A small town in the middle of nowhere, tucked between trees and dirt roads that barely showed up on maps. I rented a broken-down shack with a leaning porch and windows that rattled every time the wind picked up. It was quiet, too quiet. At first, that felt like peace. Then it started to feel like punishment. One morning, I was sweeping gravel off the porch when I heard it. A car, slow, careful. The sound didn't belong here. People in this town didn't arrive quietly. They came in loud trucks, engines roaring, tires kicking dust into the air. They waved without stopping, lived without hesitation. But this car, it moved like it wasn't sure it had the right to be there, like it was asking permission. I didn't turn around. I just stood there, gripping the handle of a cracked broom, staring at a dead moth on the windowsill. And then I heard her voice, Daniel. Soft, uncertain, smaller than I remembered, like she had practiced saying my name too many times and forgotten how it was supposed to sound. I turned slowly, and there she was, Lena. standing a few steps away like she didn't belong in the same world anymore. Her dark hair was longer now, slightly messy, like she had stopped caring about how it looked. Her lips were dry, her skin pale, and her eyes. Her eyes looked like she hadn't slept properly in months, like she had been carrying something heavy for far too long. She looked different, not broken, but close. I didn't say anything, not because I didn't have words, but because there were too many of them. They crowded my mind all at once. You left without a word. You folded your goodbye. You laughed like I never existed, but none of it came out. My throat felt tight, dry, useless. I hadn't spoken to another human in over 2 weeks. And now the one person I had tried to erase completely was standing right in front of me. "I know you don't want to see me," she said quickly, like she needed to get the words out before I could stop her. "I'm not here to fix anything. I just didn't know what else to do." I stared at her. "You disappeared," she added quietly. "You left without saying anything." That almost made me laugh. Almost. "I didn't think I owed you a goodbye," I said finally, my voice rough from disuse. "Not after the way you left." She lowered her gaze. Her hands trembled slightly, gripping the edges of her coat. "You're right," she whispered. "I don't deserve one." "Then why are you here?" That should have been enough. That should have ended it. But nothing with her had ever been simple. She took a small step closer, careful, like approaching something fragile. "I came alone," she said. He's not in my life anymore." A sharp laugh escaped me before I could stop it. "Do you think that matters?" Her expression tightened, but she didn't look away. "It wasn't what you think." "Really?" I said, voice colder now, because it looked pretty clear to me. She hesitated, and then said something that made the air between us shift. "You were right about the hotel," she said quietly, "but you were wrong about why." I didn't move, didn't blink. Something inside my chest tightened, and for the first time since she arrived. I felt it, not anger, not pain, something worse, curiosity. I didn't like the way that word settled inside me. Curiosity. It felt dangerous, like opening a door I had spent months trying to nail shut. I crossed my arms, leaning slightly against the porch frame, keeping distance between us like it still mattered. "Go on," I said flatly. Lena inhaled slowly, like the air itself hurt her. "I wasn't leaving you for him," she said. "I was leaving everything." I let out a quiet, humorless breath. "That's supposed to make it better." "No," she shook her head quickly. "It's supposed to be the truth." The wind shifted, carrying that same faint scent I remembered from the day she left. Lavender and something darker. Only now it didn't feel che-u-je-em. It felt worn, like it had been clinging to her for too long. "I had already made plans," she continued. "I was going to file for separation that weekend. I had everything ready. Papers, a place to stay. I even spoke to a lawyer." I stared at her. Every word felt like it was landing too cleanly, too carefully. "You had it all figured out," I said. "That's comforting." Her face tightened slightly. "I didn't want to destroy you," she whispered. That broke something in me, but not in the way she expected. A short, cold laugh slipped out. "You folded your clothes and vanished," I said. "You think that wasn't destruction?" Her eyes dropped again. "I thought," she hesitated, then forced the words out. "I thought if you hated me, it would be easier for you to let go." Silence fell between us, heavy, ugly, real. "Well," I said after a moment, voice quieter now, "you got what you wanted." She flinched. "Good." For a second I thought that was it, that she would finally understand there was nothing left here for her, but Lena had never known when to stop. She reached into her coat pocket slowly, like she was afraid I'd tell her not to, and pulled out an envelope, thin, wrinkled, worn at the edges like it had been carried around for too long. "I wrote this the night you left," she said. "I was going to send it, but you were gone." I didn't take it, I just looked at it like it might explode. "I kept it with me," she added. "Every time I thought I saw you somewhere, I had it ready." There it was again, that feeling, curiosity, and something sharper underneath, recognition. "I don't want it," I said. It was automatic, defensive, but my eyes didn't move from the envelope. "That's okay," she said softly. "You don't have to read it." "Then why bring it?" She looked at me then, really looked, like she was memorizing every line of my face, because even if you throw it away, at least I tried. That sentence lingered longer than it should have, and I hated that it did. I turned without answering her, walked inside, closed the door, locked it. My hand stayed on the handle for a few seconds longer than necessary. I could feel my pulse in my fingers, feel something rising in my chest I didn't want to name. I didn't look back immediately, didn't go to the window, didn't check if she was still there, because part of me already knew. 10 minutes later. I gave in. She hadn't left. Lena was sitting on the steps of the porch, shoulders slightly hunched, her hands covering her face. The envelope rested beside her, untouched, like it belonged to neither of us. I stepped back from the window, ran a hand through my hair, exhaled slowly. That night, I didn't sleep. The envelope stayed on the table, right in the center, like it had weight, like it mattered more than it should. Outside, I could hear her car engine turn on every so often, then off again, like she was trying to convince herself to leave, and failing. Around 2 in the morning, I pulled the curtain back just enough to see. She was still there, sitting in the dark, head tilted back against the wooden siding, wrapped in her coat like armor. I hated how familiar that looked. How many nights had I seen her like that before, after arguments, after long silences, sitting outside pretending she didn't care if I came back out or not. But this time, I didn't go to her, I stayed inside. Morning came slowly, gray light slipping through the blinds. Everything felt heavier than it should. I made coffee, for one. I ignored the envelope, ignored the ache behind my eyes, ignored everything that tried to pull me back into something I had already buried. By noon, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Not the envelope, her. I opened the door, she was still there, same coat, same posture, but when she looked up this time, something was different. Fear, not guilt, not sadness, fear, like she thought I would close the door again, and that would be the end, for real. "You don't have to let me in," she said quickly, standing up. I need to say a few things." I stayed in the doorway, didn't move aside. "Say them." She swallowed, her voice shook slightly now. "You think I left you for him," she said. "You think it was planned, like I just replaced you." I said nothing. "That weekend," she continued, "it wasn't about love, it wasn't even about him. I was falling apart." I let out a slow breath. "So now it's my fault." Her head snapped up immediately. "No," she said quickly. "No, that's not what I mean." "Then what do you mean?" She stepped closer, too close. I didn't move. "You were good to me," she said. That sentence hit harder than anything else she had said so far. "Too good," she added quietly. "You gave me stability. You gave me safety." Her voice broke slightly, and I didn't know what to do with that. I stared at her, trying to understand, trying not to. "I thought I was trapped," she admitted. "I thought calm meant something was missing, that love was supposed to feel louder." A bitter smile touched my lips. "So you chose chaos." She didn't deny it. "Yes." Silence again, but this time, it felt different. "He made me feel wanted," she continued. "Not loved, just wanted, and I confused that for something real." I looked away, toward the road, anywhere but her. "You looked pretty real in that photo," I said quietly. She closed her eyes for a second. "I was pretending." I almost laughed. "You looked happy." "I was trying to be." That hurt more than if she had said nothing. "I checked my email every day after you left," she said suddenly. "I thought maybe you'd say something, anything, even if it was just anger." "You got what you wanted," I replied. Silence. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. "I didn't want silence." I looked at her again, really looked. "What did you want then?" Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away this time. "I wanted forgiveness." She paused, then added, barely above a whisper, "And punishment." That landed between us like something sharp. We stood there, two people who used to know everything about each other, now barely understanding anything at all. Finally, I reached for the envelope, picked it up, held it between us. "What's in this?" I asked. "A letter," she said. "I figured." "What?" "The truth," she added quietly. I studied it for a moment, the creases, the worn edges, the weight of everything I hadn't read yet. "You still don't have the right," I said. "I know." "Then why give it to me?" She looked at me like she had already accepted the answer wouldn't matter. "Because even if you never read it, it means I didn't stay silent." That did something to me, something I didn't want to admit. And then she turned, no hesitation, no dramatic pause. She walked back to her car, opened the door, got in, and drove away just like that. I stood there longer than I should have, envelope still in my hand. I didn't chase her, but I didn't throw it away either. I went back inside, placed it on the table, and left it there, unopened. Because sometimes the truth isn't what someone tells you, it's what you already know and aren't ready to face. The envelope stayed on the table for 5 days. I told myself it didn't matter, that whatever was inside had already happened, already broken, already buried. But every time I walked past it, my eyes flicked toward it, quick, instinctive, like it was something alive, something waiting. Peace is supposed to be quiet, but this wasn't peace. This was pressure. It crept in at night. At 3 in the morning, when the wind pressed against the walls and the house felt too empty to breathe in. It sounded like her voice sometimes, soft, persistent, unfinished. On the 6th night I broke. I didn't sit down, didn't prepare myself. I just grabbed the envelope like I was ripping off a bandage that had already fused with the skin. The paper inside was folded sharply, too neatly. Like she had rewritten it more than once before deciding this version was the one I deserved. Her handwriting. I recognized it instantly. But it wasn't the same. It was shakier, uneven. There were faint smudges along the ink. She had cried while writing it. For some reason that made it worse. I started reading. She didn't begin with apologies. She didn't beg. She didn't ask for anything. She started with the truth. She wrote that she knew she didn't deserve forgiveness, that she wasn't writing to fix anything, only to finally say what she had been too afraid to say while we were still together. And then she wrote about me, not about the affair, not about the other man, just me. She said I had always been kind, too kind, that I made her feel safe. But not seen. That line stayed with me. Burned itself into something deeper than anger. She said she had been unraveling for years, slowly, quietly, and I hadn't noticed, not because I didn't care, but because I was always trying to fix things instead of understanding them. "You became my shelter," she wrote. But I didn't know how to live inside something that's stable without feeling like I was disappearing. I stopped reading for a moment, ran a hand over my face, tried to breathe. Then I kept going. She said that when she cried. I stayed calm, too calm that I thought patience was love, that silence was support, but sometimes she needed something else, something louder, something real. She said she never felt like she could reach me emotionally, because I was always holding everything together. And that broke something in her, the affair. She barely mentioned it. It wasn't about him, she wrote. It was about feeling wanted, not needed, not relied on, just chosen. I clenched my jaw. She said she hated herself for it, that she never planned for it to happen, but one night became two, then something she couldn't undo, and then the line that hit the hardest. "When you didn't even notice I was gone that weekend, something in me collapsed completely." I stared at that sentence, read it again, and again, because I remembered that weekend. I had been busy, working late, tired, assuming everything was fine. I didn't call, didn't check, didn't ask where she was, and she noticed that. Of course she did. The letter ended with one final sentence. "You were the only person I ever trusted." And I destroyed that because I didn't know how to be loved the way you loved me. I didn't realize how long I had been standing there until my legs started to ache. I folded the letter slowly, carefully, like it might fall apart if I didn't. I didn't tear it, didn't burn it. I just let it slip from my hand and fall to the floor. Then I sat down in the dark, not angry, not even sad, just empty, because the truth didn't fix anything. It didn't undo what happened, didn't bring anything back. It just added weight to something that was already too heavy to carry. The next morning, I found something I hadn't noticed before, tucked inside the envelope, folded smaller than the letter, almost hidden. A photograph, old, worn at the edges. It was us. Years ago, before everything changed. We were standing on a bridge somewhere along the coast, the sun too bright, my face slightly burned, her arms wrapped around me from behind. We looked stupidly happy. I flipped the photo over. There were 4 words written on the back in her handwriting, but newer, darker ink. I should have stayed here. I don't know why that hit harder than everything else, but it did, because it wasn't about regret, not exactly, it was about memory. She had remembered that moment, kept it, carried it, while I had been trying to forget everything. That night, I packed a small bag, not much, just enough. I told myself I wasn't going back for her, and maybe that was true, but I was going back. I needed something I couldn't get from a letter, something I couldn't ignore. I needed to hear it, face to face, the truth, and whether it actually meant anything at all. The town looked exactly the same. That was the worst part. Nothing had changed, but everything felt different. Every street carried something. Every corner had a memory attached to it. The bakery where we used to go on Sundays, the bookstore she loved but never finished a single novel from, the laundromat where we once argued over something stupid that now felt insignificant. It was like walking through a version of myself that no longer existed. I didn't tell her I was coming, didn't call, didn't warn anyone. I checked into a cheap motel under a fake name, paid cash, kept my head down. That first night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the old air conditioner, thinking about everything and nothing at the same time. The next morning, I saw her. She was sitting on a bench outside a small co-op store, still, quiet, her dark hair pulled back loosely, that same oversized coat wrapped around her frame. She wasn't on her phone, wasn't distracted, she was just waiting. Like she knew. I didn't approach her immediately. I stood across the street, hidden, watching. My heart was beating harder than it should. My hands felt cold. Every instinct told me to turn around, leave, disappear again, but I didn't. After a few minutes, she looked up and saw me. Her eyes widened slightly, but she didn't smile, didn't wave. She just stood, slowly, carefully, like she was afraid any sudden movement would make me vanish again. I crossed the street, stopped a few feet away, close enough to see everything clearly, her face, her eyes, the weight she carried. "You came back," she said quietly. "I didn't come back for you," I replied. She nodded. "I know." A pause. "You came for the truth." I didn't deny it. We walked together, not touching, not close, down toward the lake behind the town hall, a place we used to go before everything fell apart. The water was still, the air cold, sharp. We sat on an old wooden bench. Our initials were still carved into it, D+L forever. It hadn't faded. Nothing ever really does. "You should hate me," she said softly. I didn't answer because I did, but it wasn't simple. It was heavier than hate. It was something that didn't let you breathe properly. "I've wanted to talk to you every day," she continued. "I drove through towns I thought you might be in. I even hired someone to try to find you." That surprised me. "You spent money to find the man you cheated on," I said. She didn't look away. "Yes." Silence again. "I didn't love him," she added suddenly. "I didn't even like him most of the time." I looked at her, really looked. "Then why?" She took a slow breath. "Because I wanted to feel wanted." There it was again, that same truth, simple, ugly, real. "Why didn't you tell me you were unhappy?" I asked. "I tried," she said. I shook my head slightly. "I would have listened." "You would have fixed it," she replied. That stopped me. "And I didn't want to be fixed," she added. "I wanted to be understood." I let out a quiet breath. "So instead, you destroyed everything." She nodded. "Yes." No excuses, no defense, just truth, and somehow that made it worse. We sat there longer than either of us planned. The sun had started to dip, casting long shadows across the lake. The water barely moved, like even it was holding its breath. I had imagined this moment differently. Angrier, louder. I thought I'd come here to break something, to finally say everything I never got to say, but instead, I just felt tired. I wanted to hate you, I admitted quietly, staring at the water. I really did. She didn't interrupt, didn't try to defend herself. I wanted to come back and make you feel what I felt, I continued. The silence, the confusion, the way everything just stopped making sense. My jaw tightened slightly, but now that I'm here, I let the sentence fade because I didn't even know how to finish it. Now what? She asked softly. I shook my head. I don't know. And that was the most honest thing I had said in a long time. The wind picked up slightly, brushing strands of her dark hair across her face. She didn't move to fix it. She just sat there, waiting. I need to know something, I said finally. She turned toward me. Did you ever tell me the truth? I asked, even once. Her expression didn't change, but something in her eyes did. Yes, she said, a pause. Every time I told you I loved you. I looked away immediately, because that answer, it wasn't the one I expected. And somehow it hurt more than anything else. I just didn't know how to love myself enough, she added quietly, to believe I deserved you. That settled heavily between us. I had come here expecting clarity, closure, something clean, but this wasn't clean. This was messy, complicated, real, and it didn't fix anything. We stayed there until the sun disappeared completely, neither of us rushing to leave, neither of us trying to hold on. At some point she reached into her coat again, pulled out another folded paper. What's that? I asked, my voice quieter now. She hesitated, then handed it to me. My will, she said. I frowned. What? I'm not dying, she added quickly. Not like that, but I wasn't okay for a long time. Her voice dropped slightly. I wrote it when I thought I might disappear completely. I looked down at the paper in my hands. It felt heavier than it should. Read it or don't, she said, standing up slowly. But whatever you decide after. She paused. I won't come looking for you again. That landed harder than anything else she had said. No second chances, no chasing, no more unfinished conversations, just an ending. She turned, started walking away. This time she didn't hesitate, didn't slow down, didn't look back, and for a moment, I almost called her name, almost, but I didn't. I just stood there, holding that piece of paper, listening to her footsteps fade into the distance, back at the motel. The paper sat on the nightstand, unopened. I lay on the bed staring at the ceiling again, the same cracks, the same stains, but everything felt different now. Her words replayed in my head over and over. I loved you. I didn't know how to be loved. I won't come back. Sleep didn't come easy. When it finally did, I dreamed about her. She was standing outside my door again, knocking softly when I opened it. No one was there. Just a pair of shoes left behind, like she had planned to stay. And changed her mind at the last second. I didn't open the paper the next day or the day after. I carried it with me, from the motel to the streets we used to walk together. Every place felt smaller now, quieter, like time had moved on without asking permission. On the third night, I finally opened it, her handwriting again, but steadier this time, more controlled. She started with something I didn't expect, a confession. The man she had been with was married. I felt something cold settle in my chest. She wrote that she hadn't told me because she was ashamed, that she didn't even want to admit it to herself. His wife found out, left him, took their kids, and unlike Lena, she didn't ask questions, didn't look for closure, she just disappeared. That part stayed with me, because I had tried to do the same thing. Run, erase everything. But Lena, she had stayed and suffered through it. She wrote that the man, his name was Mark, fell apart after that, blamed her, blamed everything. One night he showed up at her apartment drunk, pounded on the door, yelled things she didn't even write down. She didn't let him in, but he stayed outside for days. Then disappeared 2 weeks later. He was found dead. Overdose. She didn't dramatize it, didn't try to make it emotional. She just wrote. I wasn't sad he was gone. I was terrified of what I had become. I stared at that line for a long time because it felt honest, too honest. She continued. She had started therapy, got sober. I didn't even know she had been drinking. She admitted things I had never suspected, losing her job, selling her grandmother's ring, lying to everyone, even herself. And then, the part that broke me, she had found me once, months ago. She wrote that she heard my name in a diner, drove for hours, tracked down the place, and saw me from a distance. I remembered that day. I had been fixing a boat engine with an older guy from town, laughing. For the first time in a long time, she had been there, watching, and never came closer. I was afraid, she wrote, that you'd look at me like I was nothing, or worse, not look at all. I closed my eyes because I didn't know which one I would have done. The letter ended simply. I never asked you to come back, and I still won't. But if you ever wonder whether I understood what I destroyed, this is your answer. I folded the paper slowly. No anger, no tears, just something quiet, heavy, like a door closing without a sound. The next morning, I checked out of the motel. No destination, no plan, just movement. She started calling after that, once a week. Always a missed call, no message, like a reminder, not a demand. I never answered, not because I hated her, but because I didn't know what answering would mean. And then, 2 days later, I got a message, not from her sister. You need to come now. And something inside me, that I thought was long gone, moved again. I stared at the message longer than I should have. 5 words, no explanation, no context, just enough to make my chest tighten. I hadn't spoken to her sister, Chloe, in over a year. She never liked me, said I was too soft, that I would forgive things I shouldn't. Back then, I thought she was wrong. Now, I wasn't so sure. I called her. She picked up immediately. No greeting, no hesitation. She's in the hospital. Everything inside me went still. What happened? I asked, a pause then. They're still figuring it out. Severe dehydration, kidney issues, stress. She collapsed. No one found her for 2 days. I closed my eyes. She's stable, Chloe added quickly. But she's not really talking. She just keeps saying your name. That hit harder than it should have. I'll send you the address, she said, then hung up. The drive felt longer than it was. I stopped 3 times, not for gas, not for food, just to breathe, because part of me was angry still, after everything, and another part didn't care about any of that anymore. It just wanted to know if she was alive. The hospital was small, quiet, the kind of place where everything felt slower, more personal. I found Chloe in the hallway, leaning against the wall, arms crossed, dark circles under her eyes. She's inside, she said, nodding toward the door. What happened to her? I asked. Chloe hesitated, then sighed. You want the truth? I didn't answer. She's been falling apart since you left, she said. Not because she expected you to come back. At first it was guilt. She thought being alone was punishment. I swallowed. She lost her job, Chloe continued. Sold most of her things, barely eats, barely sleeps. She looked at me, really looked, and the worst part. A pause. She never blamed you. That landed quietly but deep. I did, Chloe added. I thought you were cruel for disappearing. I wasn't cruel, I said. I know, she replied softly. You were broken. I pushed the door open. The room was dim, quiet except for the steady rhythm of a monitor. Lena was lying in the bed, curled slightly, like she was trying to take up less space. Her hair was messy, her skin pale. She looked smaller. For a second I didn't move, because this version of her didn't match the one I had been holding onto. This wasn't the woman who left me. This was someone who had been carrying that decision long after it ended. Her eyes shifted slightly, then focused on me. You came. Her voice was barely there. I pulled a chair closer, sat down, didn't say anything for a while. We just existed in the same space. Finally, I spoke. Why didn't you tell me how bad it got? She turned her head slowly. Because I thought I deserved it, she whispered. I shook my head. No one deserves this. She gave a weak, tired smile. I destroyed the only person who ever loved me right, she said. I didn't know how to live after that. Something tightened in my chest. You didn't destroy me, I said quietly. She looked at me. I destroyed the version of you that could look at me without flinching. Silence again, but this time. It wasn't heavy, just honest. She reached slowly under her pillow, pulled out another folded letter. I started writing this after the last one, she said. It's not for you. I frowned slightly. Then why give it to me? Her fingers trembled as she held it out. Because if something happens, I don't want strangers to read it. I took it carefully. I didn't ask you here for forgiveness, she added. A pause. I asked you here because I didn't want to disappear without you knowing. Her eyes met mine. I never stopped loving you. That sentence stayed in the air between us. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't know what to feel, because part of me still hurt, still remembered everything. And another part didn't want her to disappear. She fell asleep not long after. I stayed, for hours, didn't read the letter, didn't move, just held it in my hand. It was warm, and that mattered more than I expected. Morning came, soft light through the window. She was awake again, sitting up slightly. I'm not going to die, she said. I didn't think you would. She gave a faint smile. You should have, she said. Would have made things easier for you. I shook my head. I'm done carrying guilt that isn't mine. She looked at me for a long moment. So what now? She asked. I leaned back slightly, looked out the window. Now you get better, I said. For you, not for me. She nodded. And you, she asked. I go back, I said, to my quiet life, my work, my space. A pause, and after that. I hesitated. Maybe we talk, I said, sometimes. Her eyes softened. I'd like that. 3 days later, she was discharged. I helped carry her bag to the car. Even though she insisted she didn't need help, at her porch she turned to me. You came back, she said. You needed someone, I replied. She shook her head slightly. No, she said. You didn't have to, but you did. I held her gaze for a second. Grace doesn't work like that, I said. It's not earned. She stepped closer, pressed a soft kiss against my cheek. Not romantic, not claiming anything, just real. I left that same day, went back to my small town, my quiet house, my simple routine. But something had changed, not because she fixed anything, but because I finally understood something I hadn't before. I didn't need to disappear to heal. I just needed time. We talk now, not every day, sometimes about nothing, books, whether random things she notices on her walks. It's light, careful, but real. Sometimes I visit. We sit by the lake, the same one where everything broke, and we don't talk about the past. We talk about what's left. No promises. No labels, just two people who survived something that almost destroyed them and learned how to live after it.
Thank you for watching this video to the end. Visit our channel for interesting and intriguing stories.